Good evening, ladies, gentlemen, everyone. Welcome, hearty hello in Ohio Silver, and welcome to our Saturday night version of this thing of ours. I'm your host, the one, the only, the inimitable, the Stanley Fafara of Truth, your own Lionel. Or as some people call me, Lionel Nation. I'm thinking, it's not a name, but anyway, I'll take it. My friend, as I always begin tonight's intellectual concatenation. Let me remind you, there is 178 days until the election. 178 days. And as we speak, your president and mine, President Donald Trump, is speaking before the assemblage of Wildwood, New Jersey on the shore, and he is absolutely killing them. He has the ability to speak with them, to detail the truth. They love him. It is reported that some people have been there since Wednesday waiting to see him. Joe Biden has never had that in his life. And I'm not just saying that because it's being mean. It's the God's honest truth. Joe Biden has not had that in his life. And I don't know when Gavin Newsom is going to make the switch because Joe Biden is falling and is cratering so quickly. 6 months? 6 months? There's no way. How are they going to do it? Is he going to fall? I hope not. I hope he doesn't hurt himself. Is he going to get some monkey pox or something? And some doctor will let him know, because as I speak to you, we have it on good authority that the Biden folks are the most concerned over the fact that he has been advised, Joe Biden has been advised repeatedly that he needs a walker. He can't stand. And they said, you can't do this. He cannot have a walker. They said, but he is going to fall. So they put on these big shoes with the big heels and everything else to try to get him situated so he won't fall, because he's going to fall. And they said, we can't do it. They've done everything. And now his team is huddling around him. So if he does fall, they can catch him. This isn't even funny anymore. This isn't even funny. So my friends, we're going to send our positive wishes towards the greatest president of my lifetime, Donald John Trump. And we're going to talk about a very interesting subject regarding this horrible movie called Iron Claw, the most amateurish and embarrassing depiction of pro wrestling ever. And a horrible story about the Von Erichs, which is another story completely. But I ask you right now, dear friends, to listen very carefully to these incredible words, these incredible and important words regarding a situation that is so serious and so necessary. I'm telling you, one of these days, I don't know what it's going to be, how it's going to be, under what context, what circumstance, but you're going to need emergency food, and you are going to be so glad you went to preparewithlionel.com. It's no longer a question of if something catastrophic is coming, it's when. And while you still have control, still have time, what are you going to do about it now to prepare? Your first step is going to my website at preparewithlionel.com. Preparewithlionel.com. Your next step is stocking up on multiple 4-week emergency food kits from My Patriot Supply. And for a limited time, take $50 off a 4-week emergency food supply. My Patriot Supply is equipped to help you prepare. They've helped over 2 million families already. These 4-week kits with ready hour foods provide over 2,000 calories every day, 16 varieties, 25 years shelf life, breakfast, lunches, dinners, snacks, drinks, and they're sealed inside 2 31-pound rugged waterproof buckets, and they last up to 25 years in storage. Take advantage right now, my friend, and go to preparewithlionel.com. That's preparewithlionel.com. Now, my friends, I have told you this repeatedly, and I'm going to tell you again, that the greatest performance art I have ever experienced in my life is professional wrestling of the 60s and 70s. Maybe the 80s. Howie Brown, ladies and gentlemen. Howie, thank you, my friend. Howie has gifted you a Lionel Nation membership. And by the way, I appreciate it. You are immane in your treatment. Thank you. So when I saw this at the time, I happened to be lucky enough to be born in what was, and in many respects is, the professional wrestling capital of the world during the best time in Florida, and Tampa was the home of the Armory, Championship Wrestling from Florida, Gordon Soley, and the NWA. Sam Muchnick, uh, Eddie Graham later was the matchmaker. Well, Sam Muchnick was more of like an NWA thing, but Cowboy Luttrell, who was blinded by Jack Dempsey. It was wrestler versus boxer, and Jack Dempsey blinded him. I mean, but they became friends afterwards, and he would do as much as he possibly can. And since that time, nobody explained this to me. It was the most exciting, maybe because of my youth, but I don't think so. And on Tuesday nights at the Sportatorium, at the Armory, and sometimes at the Sportatorium, this little tiny dinky place where they would actually record the matches. But we would show up, and you have to understand this. It was black and white, and it was this hot in the Armory. Tuesday nights. Outside, when you walked into the Fort Homer Hesterly Armory, there was a fellow there who had, it looked like a fifth, one of these big 50 whatever gallon barrels, but he was boiling. He had boiled peanuts. You ever had boiled peanuts? And he would scoop them out and throw them into a container, a bag, and you would go in there, and that's it. Boiled peanuts, and I don't think there was anything to drink. It was hot, sweltering. There were these black men in the restrooms. Don't forget old Sam, the porter. There would be some guy. Don't forget old Sam. And you throw him a couple of whatever. And you went, and they would have the black folks at the top and the white folks at the bottom, not out of any kind of segregation. Just it was the cheap seats and this seats, and there was really not a huge difference. But once it started, nobody cared about seats anymore. It was like you cannot believe. Everybody was there. Babyface versus the heel. Babyface versus the heel. And growing up, the greatest professional wrestler I have ever seen, was Dusty Rhodes. Nobody can get near him. In terms of a worker, Ric Flair, but Dusty Rhodes, no. The greatest. So last night we watched this Netflix piece on the Von Erichs, the Adkisson family out of Texas. And whoever wrote that must have never understood anything about the business. None of it. And by the way, later on, after having grown up with this, I had become friends with there was a friend of mine who was running for judge, and I was working at the time for a U.S. senator, and I was helping him. Blah, blah, blah. I went to a thing and met Gordon Soley. It was at some event. Gordon Soley was the greatest professional wrestling announcer ever. He was beyond famous. And I got to meet him, and we became the best of friends. And I later worked with him and did business, you name it. So I got to understand the business through him later on. But before that, you have never seen anything like this in your life. It was the greatest event ever. And like I said, the beautiful part about wrestling is the business. The business, the reality, and you can watch anything on TV on platforms now. The Shoot television, and I think Jim Cornette is one of the best versions of this. Ric Flair has talked about the business. It was so kayfabe, so quiet, so respected, so absolutely secret that if you, oh my God, kayfabe was the term that was used to refer to the illusion of the business, the lies. Kayfabe, nobody knows where they came from. Supposedly in the old days, one version I heard was that when wrestlers would call home, this is before cell phones, and to tell their wife they made it or whatever it was, they would do person to person to kayfabe. As I'm sorry, he's not here, and that would be the code that I'm here on everybody's mind. And kayfabe became the term for the angle, for the and the language itself, the actual vernacular is wonderful. And one of the best was this notion called Kiazarni, which is from the days of carnies. Kiazarni is carny. And if you met someone, if you're talking to somebody, and somebody was smart or smiazard, that meant that you could talk about the business, almost like the mafia, like a friend of mine, friend of ours, something similar to that. A mark, a miazark, is somebody who either is not a part of us, don't talk, be careful. Eddie Graham was kayfabe was so strict that there was I think one time he fired somebody who was at a beach party somewhere, I don't know, Pinellas County, somewhere on the beach, where a baby face, the good guy, and the heel were seen together. And they said, that's it, you're done. One of the Vince McMahon was the most furious when the Iron Sheik and Jim the Anvil Neidhart, I think it was Jim the Anvil, they were arrested somewhere on the New Jersey Turnpike or something. There was some kind of coke arrest or something like that. What he was the most upset about was, why is a heel? Why are they driving together? What's going on here? Kayfabe was never violated. Never. Even though at the Armory, they would both go into the same dressing room, which I never understood. It was never violated. It was the mystery. Is it real? And Gordon Soley was just the greatest. Oh, come on. That's wrong. He was the greatest. And people say, is he killing this man in there? Am I watching a murder in front of me? Could be. Yeah. It was the greatest thing you've ever seen. It was exhausting. When was the last time? What? I don't care what. Maybe seeing the Beatles, the Stones. You don't go home at night and you're exhausted or you can't even sleep because the adrenaline is going. No, there was nothing like it. So when I'm watching this thing last night and I see Fritz von Erich, who wrote this? He goes, my boys, we're going to work hard and you're going to be the champion. It's like, what? I don't know. Let's see if we can get a chance to prove your mettle. And whoever owns the territory, who owns the belt, whether it's the promoter, whether they decide who is it. It's going to go to Flair. They're going to drop the belt. He's going to get the belt. There's nothing to do. What are you talking about? But when people said, oh, it's fake. No, it's not fake. The outcome is determined. But getting from point A to B, that's where it is. It's genius. And he made it sound ridiculous. Look, I understand that Von Erichs is a hard, but you want to see a story. Listen to the story about Bruiser Brody. That was horrible. There was stuff that was just, and then later on, what steroids did. But the stories that were Harley Race, Dick Murdoch, Dickie Slater, Dirty Dick Slater, these folks were maniacal. And Haku, the one, or Ming, The guy that and this was I think it wasn't in the South because it was different territories then. South was Eddie Graham, Atkinson was Texas, Bill Watts was Oklahoma, Vern Gagne was WWA, was Minnesota, Vince Sr. was WWF. There was really no West Coast California, not really. It was kind of open territory, just like the mob, just like the mafia. Exactly. Classy Freddie Blassie, that kind of thing. But not St. Louis, Sam Muchnick, Kiel Auditorium, the Cow Palace. They had a bunch of different sportatoria. It was really kind of it was almost similar, if you will, towards NASCAR, that same type of thing. The women who were there were called ring rats. Excuse me, arena rats, pardon me. And they were, and I saw stuff, and I would be backstage later on a lot of time with Gordon. And I had such a respect. I thought, oh, this is before the internet. This is before all that stuff. I thought, oh, this is going to ruin my fantasy. Oh, no. It was even more, such respect. And then later on, I told you, very, very good friends with and connected in various projects with Bobby the Brain Heenan. But that was Vince. And then, but still. So when I watched this last night, and I'm hearing Fritz von Erich trying to teach his boys, no, you do the claw like this. It's like, what? What? Yeah, he was a Nazi sympathizer, and well, we had to realize that our father was. What? Women, you're actually you're trying to convey the idea that you were upset over the fact that your father's character, Fritz von Erich, which I think was his grandmother's main name, that he took on this Nazi affectation, and this upset you. This is wrestling. I mean, this was Pampero Firpo and Hillbilly Jim and Haystacks Calhoun. What are you talking about? Of course there was nuts. What do you mean? Who wrote this? Nobody knew. Nobody said, yeah, he's really a Nazi sympathizer in Lubbock, Texas. Come on, stop it. Who wrote this crap? When we were kids, this was to me the most fun. We had wrestling history that made no sense. We had the Von Brauners. And remember, you got to understand how this thing works. There was a rule. If you're going to be a German, you're going to be not a Nazi. It was just a German. And you wore black tights, bald head, and it was the claw. Baron von Raschke, the claw. This guy, the claw. That's what they did. Germans would forget the wrestling, and they couldn't just grab your head. They had to break. It was like Dr. Strangelove. You got to go like that. That's your gimmick. That's it. All Germans did this. All Germans. But the Von Brauners, the manager was Gentleman Saul Weingroff, a Jew who wore a Nazi helmet. This made no sense. It was beautiful. I laughed my ass off. Johnny Maz says, I, like yourself, belong to the 58 Club. I remember very well as a little kid in the 60s. Killer Kowalski. Oh, yeah. Killer Kowalski was, these were really excellent. Killer Kowalski, Killer Carl Cox, different ones too. The Sheik, Larry Fall or whatever. What did he have? The pencil. The Giazaf, the gaff, he had a pencil. And this guy was this wild kind of the Sheik. And he would take this pencil and Abdullah the Butcher, another one too. Abby was, they said this guy's crazy. And let me tell you something about the wrestling. Let me tell you something about the first rule. The first rule about them. They are on 24 hours a day. You don't know when they're bullshitting you. They tell you a story. It's like, is this, come on, is this a work? A work is, like a fake story. No, it's a shoot. It's the real thing. Really? So whenever they tell you anything, and even when Kevin Von Erich says, yeah, when I was a kid, he was telling things in these various documentaries on Vice, whatever. It was a work. He was lying then, because they would have said they would have liked this. Even at the end, some of the greatest work ever. One of the most important things that put wrestling on the map. Because remember, it was always territory. Did you have a grandfather or grandmother who used to sit and watch, maybe with the sound off at 3 o'clock in the morning or whatever? He goes, Grandma, come to bed. Don't watch that. Rafael Lagonde says, when I was a kid, my favorite wrestler was Hacksaw Jim Dothan. When the hand started to come up, when he grabbed the flag, I was screaming USA. Oh, yeah. Well, remember, it's funny that you say that. As you know, there are certain rules. One of them is that when you have a sleeper, the sleeper, which many, many people were, I think Buddy Rogers did the sleeper. Then there was figure four. I mastered the figure four. That does work. My sister still walks with a limp. I said, come here, I'm going to show you something. And next thing you know, but the sleeper, whenever you put somebody to sleep, the rule was you had to wake them up. That was the rule. You had to wake them up. And what did waking somebody up entail? Very simple. You rub their back 2 or 3 times and hit them in the back of the shoulder, between the shoulder blades, and all of a sudden they wake up. But you have to do it, because if you don't, there's going to be brain damage through hypoxia. You've got to wake them up. You got to do it. Now, you think the referee, who himself oftentimes is a wrestler, would know, look, I'm going to do it because this guy's, he's out and we have to wake him up. Okay. And the idea is that once he's out, he's fine. Once you release the karate, the restraint, they'll be able to. But anyway, so they go like this and then hit him in the back. And then you hear this, no. And then the referee will say, wake him up. No. And the crowd would go crazy. And the attorney goes, no, I'm not going to do it. And the referee would drop, and then somebody would slide under the mat, under the ring, some heel or babyface, wake the guy up and save the day, and then start hitting this guy. They would do things I don't understand. It was so funny. From parts unknown, weight unknown. The Mask was Mr. Meta, Mr. Wrestling 2. The Assassin 2. Who the hell knows the Assassin 2? The Assassin was terrific. I liked it. Very, very eloquent. But they would say from parts unknown, weight unknown. Now I can understand parts unknown. You can say, hey, is that Eddie? That looks like Eddie. Where is he from? From Waxahachie, Texas? That's Eddie. Okay, parts unknown, I got that. The weight? Is that Eddie? I don't know. How much does he weigh? 250? That's Eddie. They would do this from parts unknown, weight unknown. And they would always, sometimes they would check for foreign objects. I love this. The bottom of the shoe, there's never a foreign object. It's in his waist. Not only that, his fingers are all taped. The blade is in there. What are you doing? Of course, we would say this, and the referee would check the bottom of the shoe. They would also do this. They're loading up the boot. Remember this one? They would load the boot up. What does that mean? I don't know. Like he had some weight in there, some lead weight he's shifted. And now he's going to kick this guy in the balls and kill him. Wait a minute. He's loading up the boot. One time there was a foreign object. It was a tongue depressor wrapped in tape. I said, what the hell is this? And people, it was so funny. It flew out. And all of a sudden somebody got like, what the hell is this? Gordon told me some of the greatest stories ever. There was one story. They would shoot live the tape on Tuesdays. And there was the storyline was somebody said, "Oh, Gordon talk like this. Don't forget the Armory. It was always 253-0841. Don't forget plenty of free parking." There was no free parking. You parked in people's lawns. You parked in the street. There was no free parking. There was no parking lot at the Armory. There's nothing. You just parked at people's lawns, and they would be in the front like, "Don't park here." Anyway, so the story was, the angle was, the work was, the heel comes out and he says, "I went and I had this statue made in my honor. And Gordon, I want you to keep an eye on it." And whenever they did that, that means somebody's going to come on and break it. And Gordon, I had this commissioned. And I'm going to go out in there in the rain, but Jordan, I want you to keep an eye on it because this spent a lot of money on this. This commission stuff. And it was like a night. It was like a lawn furniture. It looked so cheap. Didn't matter. You know it's going to get crushed. You know the baby face is going to come out when he's in there and break this damn thing apart. Just as sure as guaranteed. All right. He's in there doing his wrestling, and all of a sudden, wait a minute, it's Dusty Rhodes. Dusty comes out. Going Tholen. Now here's Dusty from Texas. He has a lisp, doing a black voice. Blacks loved him, whites loved him, women loved him. He goes, going Tholen. And he would talk like that. "So is this the statue?" A lot of S's, a lot of sibilants. "Yes, it is, Gord. Well, let me tell you what I do. You know what I think about you and you." And it might not have been Dusty, but the story is true. He goes, "You know what I think about your statue." And the heel was in the audience. "No." And he turned to the audience. "No." And he's turning to the referee. "No." And the referee's like, "What the hell am I? I'm over here. They're over there." "No." And people are yelling, "Break it, break it." I know this sounds stupid. I know you're laughing at it, but at the time, it meant a lot to us. And they're yelling, "Break it, break it." So whoever the babyface was picks it up and slams it, and it bounces right back up. Whoever bought this thing, it was manufactured like weather resistant with rebar, and it was like an outside kind of you can't break this thing. This thing was hurricane proof. I don't know who bought this thing. So Gordon says, "We're going to return to commercial after we restore order." There was no order. What do you mean? They had to go. They had to cut to commercial, and they did it live to tape, so they couldn't take all the time they wanted. They said, "Break this goddamn thing." So they came out with, as the audience is watching this, they didn't care, sledgehammers, pounding this thing into powder with rebar sticking up. They come back. "Well, apparently order has been restored." What order restored? What are you talking about? "Well, look at the condition of this." And there's Dusty Rhodes like this, and it's powder, pyroclastic powder with rebar. Absolutely wonderful. You know the angle. You know what they're going to do. It sounds cheesy. The best acting, and Gordon Soley brought it together. And this stupid movie didn't. I know the Von Erichs. They're all dead. How about Lance? They're all, suicide, drugs. It was tragic. Absolutely. But the way they talked about the business. Bruiser Brody. Look up that story. Horrible. Horrible. They got him in Puerto Rico. I remember when Gordon told me at the time. Remember Eddie Graham's suicide, his son and his grandson. The real backstory of these people were just, and they were all, not all, but many of them crazy. And it wasn't really drugs, it was drinking. Nobody was in shape. Nobody looked like, But a couple things happened. Vince McMahon changed everything. But do you remember a certain event? A certain event was on, let me see, it was 1982, July 28th, 1982. Anybody remember that one? Anybody remember what that was? 1982. Uh-oh, Mr. Kimball's back. The Pope of Wesley Chapel, good to see you, brother. You know what this is. Remember when Paul Jones went to Tampa Bay and threw the belt into Tampa Bay? And it was a big deal. Remember when the plane went down near Davis Island? Remember this? Buddy Colt, Bobby Shane was killed. Playboy Gary Hart and Mike McCord, they were in that. Remember that? Right there. They landed. They were at the Peter O'Knight Airport. But who remembers what happened at July 28th, 1982? It changed everything. Well, I'll tell you. But first, let's hear a word from our good friend, Mr. Mike Lindell, as we try to restore order. It's time yet again, my friends, to hail and salute our great friends at MyPillow.com. And if you use promo code Lionel, you'll get a free gift. No purchase necessary. And yes, I know, a free gift. It's a tautology, so sue me. But first, listen carefully. Check out their $25 extravaganzas. Premium My Pillows, Queen and King, My Pillow 2.0. My Pillow bed sheets, the lowest price ever. Sandals, slides, slippers, 6-piece towel sets, 4-pack dish towel sets. Simply and absolutely unbelievable. So go to mypillow.com/Lionel, mypillow.com promo code Lionel, or call 800-645-4965 and watch how fast Mike Lindell answers the phone. mypillow.com, simply and absolutely the best. What changed everything in 1982 was Jerry Lawler and Andy Kaufman on David Letterman. That was perfect. David Letterman didn't know what was happening. They didn't tell him. Jerry Lawler and Kaufman worked it out. By the way, he did a most perfectly executed, not a DDT, but a pile driver, where you could kill yourself doing that. He really did some stuff. He was wrestling with women. I mean, it was some people didn't like it. They liked it, didn't like it, whatever it was, because Jerry, Andy Kaufman grew up with that. And New York was, at that time, under Vince Sr. But you can see, go back and watch it. Letterman had no idea. And when you hear that slap, listen to it. That slap, there is nothing like it. And it was one of those things where it was so perfect and so beautiful. It changed everything. Because what happened was people say, did I see that? And no matter how many times you said, oh, come on, it was rehearsed. No, I saw that. Yeah, I know you saw it, but it was worked ahead of time. Who cares? Did you hear that? You want me to slap you? Here, let's work this out. It's fake. I'm going to come up and I'm going to slap you as hard as I can, okay? And not like that stuff on TV or whatever. I mean, slap you so it makes a lot of noise. And in order to make that noise, I got to keep my hand hard. Unlike what the Three Stooges did, because Mo would talk later on how he would loosen his hand and when he would hit. No, this has got to be hard. Kaufman never let up. Bobby Heenan told me years later that one time they were doing something and he went to Andy Kaufman's room or something. He said, Andy, we're going to go. And the door went up and it was dark. He goes, yes. With just a little fire. Yes. Can I help you? Can you help me? We got to go. Okay, I'll be there in a moment. And he played it constantly. It was the heel constantly. Bobby and I went out in New York one time at the Palm years ago. And he was the heel. And somebody came up and he wasn't rude, but he was a heel. And he wanted to intimidate him. Whoever this person was, his fan, and I saw it. And he had a look. And later on I said, you have to do this? He says, you don't understand. I'm a heel. The worst thing I could do was be nice. Go, hey, how are you? I say, no. It was 24 hours. Jerry Lawler changed everything. Then around the 90, whatever, Cyndi Lauper and, WrestleMania. It destroyed it. Destroyed it. Yeah. Absolutely destroyed it. It was the greatest thing ever. I'm telling you, I watch right now. Sometimes on my YouTube world, thanks to my iPad, I can watch anything I want. I was watching an old Quincy that I forget how great this was, because you can't possibly watch TV and see such disparate things like this. But I loved it when you were a kid. When you're a kid and you're in this, I think about this. Think about this. One guy got shot. They shot, they stabbed. When I was a kid, there was one rule that absolutely true. Anybody gets into the ring, flatten them. Flatten them. You don't know who this person is. And the cops knew it, and everybody knew it, because people were hurt and stabbed trying to, negotiate. And one day we were there, and this poor guy, he was a young African-American. Well, look, was very slight. He couldn't take it. He had his hat backwards, and he had a cigarette, and he was going crazy. And there was a guy named Bobby Duncombe. And this guy couldn't take it. And he ran in, and there was a hit. To hear that sound. And this guy was, and I'm thinking to myself, and you're second guessing, is that a part of this? What was that? No, that was real. Was that a work? Was that a shoot? Was that real? Was that a work? What's going on here? We don't know anything. We don't know what to believe. There was a woman next to me one time when I was a kid. I'm with my father. I'm thinking, oh my God, the light, the heat. Think about this, all the sensory, the noise, and my father, when growing up in Florida, we didn't have anything. He had University of Tampa football. There's nothing, no Buccaneers, no nothing. Spring training and there's no sport. That was it. Everybody went. And we're in there, and I'm thinking, I got to go to school the next day. I don't know. I'm like this. I'm going crazy. And I'm watching this, and this woman was like wearing a muumuu, braless. Well, not braless. They just didn't make bras. And she's sitting there sweating, cigarettes, yelling. I never heard the F. I was a kid. F. I mean, it's like, wow. She's screaming. So I've got to see this. How many times do you see an 80-year-old woman drop an F-bomb just rattling him up? This they're dragging him on. He's dead. I don't know who this guy is with a hat. He's dead. They're dragging his ass up. I remember one time seeing Johnny Valentine. Oh my God. Greg the Hammer Valentine's father. And people always said, whoa, did they really cut themselves? You damn right they cut themselves. He was gaffed. I mean, he was there hanging almost like a crucifix. He just stayed there. As we're all filing out, you walk by like, don't look at him. And he was just staring like this. And this blood was like, not pulsing, but it was just, I've never seen somebody's face like that. I'm a kid. I'm walking out like, oh my God, look at him. Sweating. But that sweat was just pouring. It's just sweat, blood, sweat, maybe some tears. And he just sat there. He didn't get up and leave. People walked out. He might still be there. It was the most incredible thing I've ever seen in my life. And I'm like this. I'm good. Good night. I'm like staring. My heart's going like this. My adrenaline. My mother said, don't you take him. So Tuesday nights were off for a while. It was the most incredible thing I've ever seen in my life. There's nothing like it. And there's one match after the other. The first match, I'm going crazy. And my father's saying, you might want to pace yourself a little bit. This is the first match. There's more? Yeah, look at this. Oh my God. Sputnik and Rocket Monroe, Joe LeDuc, Paul LeDuc, Jack Briscoe, Don Morocco, Killer Carl Cox, the great Malenko, maybe the greatest heel, who all of a sudden would just close his eye, Professor Boris Malenko. Remember when his false teeth, Dale remembers this one. His face was a crimson mask. Katie barred the door. A Pier 6 brawl. Dale, do you remember when Malenko's, and that's our buddy Larry, Jody Simon's father. In fact, Dean Malenko was his brother. Anyway, but his teeth pop out. His teeth, false teeth, and they smashed him. And we're like, oh my God. Sam Steamboat. There was a guy who was later on called the Job Boy. The Job Boy was the one who just got beat up all the time. Somebody new comes in, Pepe Gomez, Dennis Stamp, these names. Their jobs were to be killed. And now we have, guys, Andre the Giant, the seventh wonder of the world, 7 feet tall. And they bring in Pepe Gomez. Like, are you kidding me? They have a handicap match. Pepe Gomez and Dennis Stamp against Andre the Giant. I mean, you know. And when you sit there and you see there's Andre the Giant, he walks by, you say, oh my God. It's the most incredible thing in the world. The mask, they would unmask people. I love that. We had different matches like the bunkhouse match. There was a boot on a pole and you would grab the boot. Or was that I think that was the Texas. No, there was the glove, there was this glove that they would use. Is it either in oil rigs or something? Anyway, there's a thing at the top of the pole and you beat people. I mean, it was the most stupid matches in the world. Haystacks Calhoun, he came in with a horseshoe on a chain around his neck, and they're checking the bottom of his shoes for foreign objects. I said, what about the horseshoe? And he would take the horseshoe off and clobber this guy. And the referee says, but that's what he wears. It's like, he's going to kill these people with the horseshoe. What are you looking at? You loved it. Dale will remember this. Professional wrestling was the only time when the referee will turn to the mic, turn to the audience, and say, what'd you think? What'd you think? Was that good? No? Was there a tag? No? No tag? And they would speak to you. No! No tag? No! And say, okay. And he would reverse his opinion based upon this collective opinion of the crowd. Imagine professional baseball like that. Imagine this. Imagine Major League Baseball, all of a sudden, strike, no. And the ref turns around and says, the umpire, is that, should I change my mind? Yeah, change it. Okay. Meant nothing to you at the time, but it was wonderful. Those days are gone. They're finished. They're through. And now it's all creepy with, now it's too inside. Now we know everything. It's gone. It's like talk radio. It's gone. But there was a time, ladies and gentlemen, when it was so beautiful and so wonderful to see grown men, big men, hulking men, not in any kind of shape. Dick Murdoch? No. I think he was from Waxahachie. Dusty Rhodes, he had gynecomastia. He had moobs. He had moobs, man boobs, with a scar in his gut, and didn't matter. Jack Briscoe, whenever they said scientific wrestler, boring. Dory Funk, boring. Terry Funk, different story altogether. The most just wonderful. Let me ask you. Gracie says midget wrestling. Remember this, Gracie? Sky Lolo, Little Beaver, Stu Schwartz. I can't believe you said that. Dale, Stu Schwartz was the worst. Stu Schwartz was married to Bonnie Watson. And one day when I was on WFLA at the time doing afternoons, I said, Stu Schwartz was the worst referee. The man was blind. He missed every tag. He was the worst referee. And all of a sudden the guy says, line 2. It's who? It's Stu Schwartz. Thank you very much. He loved it. Stu Schwartz was, how about this, whenever they had a special referee? Special referee means they're gonna flip the title. Or they're gonna waive the disqualification rule. They're gonna change titles. Different hints. Dale, did you ever go to Bayfront Center? Where they had the great Chet Tharp. Good friend Chet, his son is a very noted jurist in Hillsborough County, but his father, Chet Sr., would be at ringside. And whenever they would say, whenever Chet Tharp would come up with this guy, Tim something, who would sing the national anthem. And this is what happens. Good evening, wrestling fans. And this is what you would see, this. People are picking stuff up. They're putting their cans. They're loading up. They're getting their boxes. They're getting ready. Getting anything that can fly, anything that's got a good propel there, and they would bring stuff. And Chet Tharp would do this every single time. Thank you, wrestling fans, for the safety and consideration of those, and for the safety of those ringside. Please, here we go. Please refrain from throwing anything at the ring. Upon which from every direction, everything, chairs, shoes, keys, clothing, whatever it is, would just pummel that great man, Chet Tharp. It was wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. One of the best, most brilliant things I ever saw one time was a little kid comes up and he has an autograph. Remember an autograph book? Girls, you ever have that? An autograph book? With the little books and autographs. Remember that? And you would like, oh, and you could see this kid, he walks up to one of the heels or whatever, and he has an autograph. And like this was planned or something. The kid looks at it and goes, the heel, and throws it up. And I don't know if it got caught in a light fixture or some type of structure. It never came down. And people were just... Now, it was somebody's kid, somebody's son or whatever, but the kid, ran off crying. People were going to kill this guy. I mean, it was something so simple. First of all, it disappeared. I don't know where it went. But to take this, how brilliant. Okay, Timmy, you're going to come up, hand him that. Okay, and he's going to throw him. Great. People went nuts. For some reason, that just did something. How about fire? Remember, Dale? The Infernos. They would have fire. They would do these things. They would this contact paper, and they would throw fire. The barbed wire match. Let me just say something. I apologize for waxing nostalgic. I apologize. Probably in the annals of any kind of platform, this is of no interest to most people. But you either understand what I'm saying or you don't. You either understand, you grasp what I'm saying, or you don't. I think LJ Jackson gets it. APAC came out me when I was attempting to answer a survey on X, but I could feel the pressure of it all. Wow. My God. I thought this was a wrestling, the APAC. I don't remember APAC. Who was APAC? Was that like Pompero Firpo? Thank you, LJ. Keep up. Remember, truth will prevail. Who remembers? Dale will know this. So help me God. Who remembers the 300-pound African guy with the white stripes? Kamala. When I heard Kamala Harris for the first time, the only Kamala, we pronounce it Kamala, was the African guy from, Pittsburgh or something. But the storyline was he was from Africa. And he had, a spear and, just politically incorrect with white stripes. And I showed somebody something and they said, you are racist. And I'm not racist. I'm telling you. Look at that. See, Raul says Kamala was awesome. You remember that? I'm not making this up. Now, let me also tell you something which is the most important. And LJ, please, I don't want to in any way not pay enough attention to your particular slight. How dare anybody deprive you of the right to speak the truth? But I want to tell you something right now, which is the most important. And I've told people this, and there is a book that is a wonderful chronicle of this, and it absolutely is true. One of the most important figures in professional wrestling was Gorgeous George. Gorgeous George did something nobody never heard of. Never heard of this. Before Buddy Rogers and Nature Boy and all that stuff. Post World War II, America was feeling like we just kicked Hitler's ass. We were bad and ready to go. At that time, shortly thereafter, here comes George Wagner, Gorgeous George, with bleach blonde hair, golden bobby pins, very effeminate, can't say gay, but they use words like sissy, and he had his valet would, spritz him with perfume, and he had the robes that something a la nudie, rhinestone. He was the first person to do it. And later on, Elton John, James Brown said he thanked him. Freddie Mercury, glam rock, go down the list. Bowie, nobody thought of this. Later on, it got kind of weird. There was some satanic stuff. Kevin Sullivan, remember Abuda Dean was Mark Lewin, Maniac Mark Lewin. They had some Killer Carl Cox. Was it Carl Cox? Had Alex, this friend of his, who George the Animal Steele, wonderful high school teacher who would eat and chew the turnbuckle. Bruiser Brody, Pompero Firpo, all the Samoans would always stomp you. The Missouri Mauler, but they would stomp you. But George Wagner, Gorgeous George, changed everything. Remember the old days? Mr. Saito, Kendo Nagasaki, spraying this green mist. I was what? And you had certain parts. Asians, you know what they did. Russians. Let me also tell you something. Do you know how smart it was and how gutsy it was during the height of the Iranian hostage situation for Sergeant Slaughter and the Iron Sheik when he said death to America? Do you know the balls this guy? I could go on and on. So let me just say this. I'm lucky I lived during this time. Some people went to Woodstock. Not as many as you would think. But I was there. And Dale will attest to this. It was the hotbed. And little town, not that St. Louis is little, but, in Alabama and Dothan and in little smaller towns. And this wasn't outlaw wrestling. Outlaw wrestling is where they go to a gym like at a high school. This was different. But it was very ecumenical. It brought everybody together, black, white. Everybody loved it. It was the greatest show on earth. It cost nothing. And there is, to this day, no form of entertainment that I've ever seen that will exhaust you like that was. Because you weren't, and Dale will verify this, you can't put enough on this. You weren't sure this man could be dead. They could be killing this man in the ring. There's a possibility you're watching a murder. He is bleeding. And every time, sometimes in the front row, you'll be sprayed with this. You cannot believe this. There was no warnings, no nothing. When Jake the Snake, forget PETA, boa constrictors, and it wasn't sexual. It wasn't, there was no theme. It wasn't like, good versus, well, it was good versus evil, but it was just crazy people, fat people who just hate each other. Not because this one's from another country or this one is, a satanic. No, it was two big fat guys. One guy was a good guy for reasons we don't know. The other guy's a bad guy. He's a heel, and they want to kill each other. And that's it. There was no script. There was no line. I'm going to kill you. It was great. Dick Slater, I'm telling you, It's done. And you will never be able to see that again. Can't be done. Like Rudy Giuliani proved with talk radio. Talk radio's dead. It's dead. So let me thank you for this. Dear friends, I want to thank you. LJ Jackson, you keep it up. Can't even answer a survey on X. Horrible. Rafael Legondi, thank you. Johnny Maz, thank you. And Howie Brown, thank you. And tomorrow we will meet in the morning for our Mother's Day show. All you mothers out there. I'm going to be watching the review of President Trump in Wildwood, New Jersey, doing a tremendous job, as it were. And I want to thank you for this. Thank you for giving me the great opportunity of being here and speaking with you and waxing philosophic, waxing rhapsodic. Those were wonderful days of my youth, and I will never forget them, ever. And it's so interesting. Sometimes I just see people now say Bobby the Brain, and one night Bobby the Brain and I, Mean Gene, we were on 8th Avenue. There was a Howard Johnson, and we had more fun. Anyway, thank you, my friends. Please, please, please. Mrs. L, the best YouTube channel. Follow her at Lynn's Warriors. That's the link. Go to that link and sign up immediately. And it will take you right to the subscription part. All right, dear friends. Have a great and a glorious day. Don't ever change. I mean that sincerely. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. We will see you tomorrow at 8 a.m. sharp. And don't forget, make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you like this. And until then, my friends, remember the monkey's dead. The show's over. Sue you.